Everybody, what's happening? So excited to have you in my beautiful kitchen here in Scottsdale, Arizona. Kind of rainy Scottsdale, Arizona. Everybody's kind of freaking out when it rains here, but welcome. I definitely want to say a big thank you to VMware by Broadcom and Oracle for having us. Of course, Lisa is the best and will help guide us through this process. I know you gave a lot of information, Lisa, and I'm grateful, but I do want everybody to know that we're not building rocket ships today, kids. These are burger sliders and caramelized onion dip, which are two of my favorite things. I'm a dad and a father of 5. So Super Bowl's right around the corner. So I hope this is gonna be, before we get into who's gonna win and all that stuff, we're gonna have some good little dishes for you all to kind of enjoy coming up down the road here. So another thing about me, all the food that I normally do and cut my teeth on really, I go back to my own sayings. Is simplicity is perfection, really. You let ingredients kind of speak for themselves. So I don't think we're gonna have a difficult time. There are a few steps, but we'll walk through them. I'm easy, Lisa's available to you. We go thumbs up and I'll check in with you. So I'm not moving too fast. And then the second side of life is if you have a cold beer or a glass of wine, that's my first rule of thumb in a kitchen. Be comfortable, enjoy it, and have some fun. Ask as many questions as you want, and let's interact. Hospitality is that relationship between the host and the guest, and I'm just super excited to meet all of you and find out where you're all from and do a little dish. And then just word for the wise, I do look better a little dimly lit, but if you need to see me that close up, hey, you just gotta live with it tonight, people. You just gotta live with it tonight. So I know we got a lot of burger fans out there, I hope. I also know there's some vegans in the house and we sent some beautiful products for you guys to use. Like I said, I know we wanna all eat, so we'll get started, but if anybody has any questions, don't hesitate. Let's have fun with this little demo and let's make some beautiful burger sliders. For me, food, just in general, is my first language. But in kitchens, like I'm sure in your worlds, there's an old saying, if you fail to prepare, then prepare to fail. So for us is when I prioritize this menu, I do things in kind of steps. And I try to do things that take the longest first to get them out of the way, so it makes things easier on the back end. We're making 2 dishes, the Wagyu beef sliders with smoked Gouda, spiced tomato jam and roasted garlic aioli, and of course the Beaumax caramelized onion dip. This was a legendary dish at Sanctuary that I worked at for 20 years. And what I love about this dip, if you have a family, the longer it sits in your fridge, the better it gets. And it's available and everyone usually really loves it. So we're gonna start there with the onion dip because we wanna get that onion cooking. So I'm asking everyone to grab their little yellow onion that was shipped to you and we'll do a little knife work. I'm gonna start by cutting the ends off and then cutting it in half and just peeling the outside layer. Just like so. And I know some people, I love it. I love it. I mean, some of you may have made it already, or some of you aren't cooking along, but if you are, I'm telling you, all of this is pretty easy and simple. And if you just kind of watch through the demo, you'd be able to follow the directions and kind of repeat it. So I'm gonna throw this skin in the trash. And then the other thing I'm gonna do is ask you all to take your garlic container. We shipped you some beautiful cloves of garlic. I want you to remove just 3 pieces of those cloves. This is another thing that's gonna take a little while. I wanna save 3 for my tomato jam, but I wanna pour the rest in a baking safe container for us that you can put in the oven. So I have a stainless steel pan or a little baking dish, no rubber handle, something that can take the heat. And I'm gonna kind of submerge this in a little bit of my olive oil. I just want enough of that olive oil to kind of almost cover that garlic. And I'm gonna save some because I'm gonna reuse that later. But you can see it's kind of semi-submerged in there. Maybe I'll put a little bit more. You almost want it all the way to the top. And then the next step, we're just gonna stick that beautiful garlic in the oven at 350 and we'll check it through the process. If anybody has any questions, let us know. But this is one of the longer processes. If you cook it on low temp, it takes, 325, it'll take about 30 to 40 minutes. I had that oven up a little bit because I just know you guys want to eat, and we've got about an hour today, so we'll check it as we go. So I'm popping this garlic right in my 350 oven, and around the 15-minute mark, we can come back to it. All right, back to the onion. Yeah, this, you know, you think about restaurants and you think about, you know, how much work goes into things. And for me, I had the ability to create some beautiful high-end dishes at this restaurant, hotel actually. And what's funny is some of the simple things that you put the work in that you would think don't get the biggest rewards, but they really truly do. And we mastered not only the onion dip, but we mastered the potato chips that went with it. It took us a while, but we were buying these beautiful big Kennebec potato chips, soaking and frying those. And we used to serve them, and some of the chips would be like this big. And I got more comments on just the chips and dip in that restaurant, which is hilarious, than anything else. All right, so let's walk. Nope. Nope, you just stick it right in. We're gonna keep an eye on it, you know, and as we go. If you're gonna cook it slower and long term, you can definitely cover it, but you know, we've got a window here, so I got the heat on a little high, but I think about the 10, 15 minute mark, we're gonna go back to it. We're gonna look to see if it has some color. We're gonna look to see if it softens. Without crying? That's, you know, it's funny. There's some old theories there. I worked for a French guy in Boca Raton way back in the day. And he's like, when you start cutting onions, if you start to cry, run the palm of your hand under cold water and it'll help it right away. I can tell you, I'm in Arizona and sometimes you get onions that the minute you start chopping them, boom, you know, tears are flowing, and other times it's not. So it's part of the process. A good cry is good for you. It's a release, and you know, that onion dip is gonna taste better for it. So there we go, right? All right, so here we go. We got an onion in half. If you notice there's kind of a stem end, and I left that on. You wanna find that. Make sure you have all the peel off that has like drier skin to it. But the best way to do this is literally take that onion using your fingers and just gentle slices. But the thinner you can slice it, the better. I'll stop right there. Those aren't really thick slices, they're kind of thin. So, you know, you can obviously go back to the board and rough chop it earlier, but I don't like, you know, big onions in my onion dip. I want it kind of like contained. So nice, easy slices. You know, accidents happen in kitchens. I've had one before many times, but you know, it's really just focusing on what you're doing. So don't be afraid to look down on your board, use your hand, and then as you get more confident, that's correct. Yep, that's correct, yep. Okay, so when you do that, that's the first layer, and this is that little trick with chefs that, you know, help with speed. The next layer is 2 cuts across. So I'm gonna go low, very slowly, holding that onion together, but watching my fingers. And then I'm gonna make one more on the top, just like so. And I'll move that onion there. I'm gonna do the same here. A lower cut and a higher cut. And now, using the same process, always using my knuckles kind of as a guide, nice little thin cuts here. Just nice and down. And you can see, I'll stop for a minute, that you get these beautiful little diced onions. Now, it doesn't happen generally if you aren't familiar, so I want you to take your time, and I'll tell you, practice makes perfect. It's like everything else. So just go at the pace that you want to go to chop these guys. As you get down towards the root, it's smaller and harder, so if you're not comfortable, you can just kind of reserve this guy off to the side if you want to, and then we'll bring up that other onion and just do the same thing. Same little process. Nice and easy. Well, hopefully. And I'm not crying yet, but I can feel it. It might come on. Okay, I'm gonna do a few more little slices. Just like so. And you kind of get the idea for these onions. Garlic is in, onions are chopped. If you need to go back through, guys, don't hesitate. Go back through. You can chop these up. This is where you might release a little bit of that onion liquid and you might start to cry, but it's part of the process. Here we go. Right on. Yeah, I heard a beautiful Wayne Gretzky reference earlier in the conversation, and I wanted to tell you that I had the honor of serving as his personal chef for 5 years here in AZ. And he was one of the greatest or is one of the greatest humans I've been around and got to work with. I have some killer Gretzky stories. So if anybody wants any dirt on some of the celebrities that used to come into Sanctuary or the Food Network dirt or anything you want to know, baseball, football, you let me know. We'll jump into that conversation too. All right. Well, I will tell you, I'm going to be honest with you. It's funny because some of the biggest superstars that I've found that I've got to be around, those are the guys that are really genuine. Those are the guys that are super kind. It seems like the guy that owns 1% of the football team is the guy who likes to tell everybody he owns the football team. So I can leave it at that. But yeah, I've had some people in there that I'm like, okay, really? Like, you might want to tone it down, you know? All right, a little olive oil into the onions ahead of time. And then I'm gonna show you in my pan over on the stove here. I'm gonna just get a little pan here with a little oil in it as well. And I'm gonna turn that pan That's a great point. Yeah, I probably put about a tablespoon of olive oil in the onions just to kind of pre-soak them and coat them. And I, like a chef, I'm very emotional. I like to eat with my hands, touch things like an Italian chef would versus a French chef. But you get a little tablespoon of olive oil in there and coat those onions, and the same in the pan. You have a nice little start. And then I'm gonna move my burner back because I don't wanna go too high. We have a little bit of time. I'm on like a medium high heat, if you can see my flame over here. And I'm literally gonna put that right in the center, and I'm gonna drop my onions in. What I'm looking to do with these is caramelize them, but cook them over a little bit of time. We're not in a rush. So we wanna just kind of sweat them out and get a little color on them, and then we're gonna add some aromatics and some flavorings to it, and it's gonna go back in a dip. Give me a thumbs up, guys, if you got your garlic in and your onions are already chopped. I don't wanna move too fast for you. Feeling good? I like that. I like that. Yeah. Yeah. All right. So next up, I think in the step, we've got garlic going, we've got onions, haven't even started to make a sound yet, but they're gonna come up. We're gonna start on a little prep for this tomato jam. That's kind of the next process. These are fun little blue chip recipes. This tomato jam can be sweet, it can be spicy, it has these great earthy flavors with the garlic and the paprika, but I like to prep it out and then we'll get to the stove and we can kind of manage both ends of those onions and that tomato jam at the same time. So the tomatoes need to be cut in half. So these are little baby heirloom tomatoes. And I was gonna show you guys, normally if you have enough time in the kitchen, you prep these guys out, just cut them in half. But one of the little tricks in a kitchen is we save our little deli lids that we get, these little plastic deli lids. You can also do this with small plates. And a little trick is to kind of grab as many tomatoes as you can fit in there, and then you throw the next lid on top, and with like a little serrated knife and some pressure, you just go like this, and your tomatoes are cut at like twice the amount of time that you need. So, yeah. Yeah, it's a nice little tip. When you're a chef in a kitchen, it's all about productivity. Really it is. In a lot of things, and you want to be able to get your work done as fast as possible. But these little deli lids, you can get them on a wonton soup at your Chinese store. I save those. These are great little prep containers for mise en place and for ingredients, and you just run that knife straight through and look at how fast you have your tomatoes prepped out. I don't want to move too. Sharp knife always. Dull knives cut more than sharp knives or cause accidents. So that's very, very important. So, all right, I'm almost done. I will wait to make sure you guys are all with me, and then we'll start this beautiful little tomato jam. Yep, that's okay. Yep. Ooh. I love it. That's right. That's right. I knew we had some guests that at least you let know I'm from Massachusetts, and I know it's not hard to tell. Are there any Canadians with us tonight? I'm just curious. It sounded like there might be a Canadian accent or two. No. We got Long Island in the house. I love it. I love it. So East Coasters, it's late for you guys. You want to eat some burgers. So, you know what's great already is like life and food, right? It's just, you can't get over, two of my favorite things is like, my first favorite bite in the world is probably a charred ribeye steak that's spinalis on the outside. Those two first bites with béarnaise sauce. But I can tell you, onions cooking with bacon are like two of my favorite things in the world. So we got the onions sweating. I'm definitely ready on my tomatoes. So here's what we want to do. We want to take a little residual olive oil, and I'm going to turn on my next burner over here. And if you notice, actually, I'm going to turn on this burner over here and see if I can light this one, or the back one. That's what I'll do. Once in a while. Okay, another tablespoon, free poured by Beau Mac. We're gonna control that heat as well. I'll turn the other two off. I've got my burner working. I've got a shallow saucepan. Super easy. It's warming up. While it's warming up, we have those residual 3 cloves of garlic. So we're gonna take our knife, our chef knife, and we're gonna smash it. I hope you guys have a shot. I'm gonna put my knife close to me towards the back end of the knife and just smash that little clove into bits. This really releases its oil, but also helps you contain the chop. So I kind of stack that up and literally just go back through the same way I was cutting that onion. And you can do that a couple of times. You know, obviously, the more you cut and chop something, especially if it's a fresh herb or a piece of garlic, you know, sadly, the more nutrients it loses. And the same with, you know, the cooking ability to it. Cooking is obviously a wonderful technique, but it usually takes a lot of the flavor, some of the moisture and certain things like that. So I think it's just a matter of getting, you know, understanding your sensibilities, what you really like and how you like textures. Garlic for me, just a nice fine chop, but I do like to have some of those little kind of chunks in there, not only just to add flavor, but also a little texture in the dish. All right, so tomatoes can go right in your pot. Onion can go right in the pot. Garlic can go right in the pot. I love that sound. That sound. For sugar, if you want to use a honey or you want to use an agave, I'm sure you could. And honestly, you know, I like this dish, this jam, to be not so sweet. So, you know, I think we're gonna add the sugar in stages and taste as we go. And in the meantime, just get a look at your onions. My pan is starting to get a little color on it. They're starting to sweat down a little bit and cook through, and I can smell them. They smell wonderful. Make sure your oil is coating. They absolutely could, Lise. Okay, no doubt about it. A little sweet, bring a little acid as well to it. So on the recipe, I am sliced my tomatoes. I've heated my saute pan and I'm sweating them in the olive oil about 1 to 2 minutes. I've added my garlic, and now you actually want to add a pinch of chili flake. Now this is where it comes into your preference, right? I have a lot of kids. I can't put the chili flake in the dish. None of my kids are home, thank goodness. So I'm actually gonna put a little more in because I like a little of that vibe. I'm also gonna add and why don't I get something for you too, so you can see. I'll do this the right way. I'm gonna add about a half teaspoon of smoked paprika, maybe a little bit more. I love that smoked paprika. If you find it in your grocery store, it's one of these beautiful perfumey spices that adds a lot of smokiness to your dishes and takes it to another level. I'll tell you, if you are someone who doesn't eat meat, smoked paprika can give you like that great smoky bacon flavor. Now what's crazy is if I can get a close-up of this jam, I'm gonna get in the camera here. I think I gotta back up, there it is. What's crazy is those tomatoes blistered so fast that already this looks like a jam and it smells wonderful, but I still have a little cook time. So I'm gonna actually turn my heat down just a little bit. I don't wanna be too high. I'm letting those flavors kind of blend together, and then there's just a couple more ingredients to add, and that's gonna be the sugar, the red wine vinegar, and we're pretty much there, maybe a pinch of salt and pepper. So I'm gonna start same way, a little smaller, we can always add more. Let's go 1 teaspoon, 2 teaspoons. Now, keep in mind, we want to stir as we add that. Let that sugar kind of dissolve. And I like to kind of mash this up. Blister those tomatoes a little bit. Very nice. And now it's time to add the red wine vinegar. Red wine vinegar we have right here, and I'm thinking, let's pour about half in. And now we can relax. Just beautiful. You got some liquid in there. What this is, just like a lot of things, is a reduction. And reductions, you know, fortified sauces are done through reductions. And reductions are great because as you reduce, you tend to get a thicker product, but an intense flavor. I'm getting some nice color on my onions. So I've turned my heat actually off. If you got a little bit of brownness, a little bit of that onion flavor, that caramelization, you wanna turn that off, and now we can prep out a few things that we wanna add to that onion. We wanna add Worcestershire sauce. It's not a requirement. I think there is a substitute for our vegan guests, and we wanna add white wine. So let's do that together. I'm gonna add the full bottle of white wine. Correct, yep. And also we're gonna add that Worcestershire sauce to the onions as well. And yep. I have a tablespoon measure. It calls for an ounce. So you just put 3 tablespoons in. This is also gonna help your onions with that color in your dip, kind of make it look real nice. Okay, and then one of my favorite ingredients, Tabasco. New Iberia, just a couple little jots. Boop. Boom, just like so. Now if you want it a little spicier, add a little more, but I added maybe about a teaspoon in there. All right, and then you get a stir. All right, now I've got these onions completely covered. You can go ahead and turn your heat back on, but just go very, very low, because I want to do the same thing I'm doing with my jam. I want to actually just reduce it slowly. Make sure your jam on your stove is at a very, very low temp. If it's boiling really, really hard or drying out, you can go ahead and turn it off. Lisa, I think we're moving at a good pace. How's everybody feeling? Yep. And we do. And I'm actually gonna look at my garlic. So this is what you wanna see. I've been about 15, 17 minutes in. I've got some bubbly garlic in there. My oil looks really, really hot, and it's starting to get a little color here. You know, obviously be careful, use a rag, but I would like to get a little bit more color and a little bit more cook on this garlic so we can put it back in the oven. Just give it a check, make sure it's not burning. And it helps when you open your oven door a bit, it lets a lot of heat out, so it'll help cool down that oven. I'm gonna give my onions a stir, and they're reducing nice. That's a great question. So if you put this in a little mason jar and you make it, you know, you could obviously sanitize your jars, compress them, and that jam would probably last you a couple of months in the fridge. But if you're making this ahead, it's a blue chip. And if you want to put it in a tight sealed container and keep it in your fridge, I'll say that'll last 6-7 days in there, and you can use it for multiple different reasons. Yep. All right, so one thing, you absolutely can double the recipe. I know a lot of guests want to have Super Bowl friends over. I use that tomato jam on toast with whipped ricotta. It's absolutely delicious. I use it on burgers. It's like, these are blue chips. So I think that the more you can kind of find the love of the food that you connect with and the more versatile you can be with it, it's absolutely amazing. So, I mean, have fun. That jam, believe it or not, with chili flakes and eggs cooked in olive oil, absolutely delicious. A little Parmesan cheese on top. Get creative. That's where you got to get. And, you know, go into it in your kitchen. Be confident. I mean, you know, things come out great sometimes and you had no idea what's happening, you know, and then there's times it's not going to work out. But the bottom line is cooking is just such a therapeutic form, and it brings people together, the family meal, the family table. I want you to experience that. And I'll tell you this, is I always say, Elise knows, you know, I love cooking for people I love, but I love cooking with people I love more. Nice, nice. Tell them to come over. I got some beers in the other fridge here. We'll be good to go. You got Long Island in the house. I love it. Yeah. You know what? It's funny because it really, it's something that found me. And that's a, you know, kind of a true story here. I was in school in Massachusetts, and I was trying to figure out what I liked. And to be quite honest with you, school wasn't it. And one of my great guidance counselors was like, Beau, you should look into maybe taking culinary arts or you know, a trade. And I was cooking short order for my uncle at his restaurant, for my friend's uncle at his restaurant in Plymouth, Mass. That's where I grew up. So think of a little America's hometown with the little tiny rock that doesn't impress anybody. And you know, you fry clams, make clam chowder. I thought everything in food came with kale and lemon and tartar sauce until I was 18 years old. But I just put my head down. I always knew I wanted to be creative. My grandmother was such an inspiration to me. My best friend's mom was from Rome, Italy. So when I started eating at her house, you know, early on, I realized the power of food and just always had a love for it. So I busted my butt and got into that class and did very well. Went down to Johnson & Wales University, did very well there as well. And then I knew as soon as I can get out into the market, I want to work for the best guys in the business. And I did it for the last, you know, gosh, 30 years now, but, you know, 10 out of culinary school. I was in Boca Raton, I was in New York, I was in Montreal, I was in LA. And then around 27, I was like, it's time for you to do something on your own and be a chef. And I got an interview at a property in Arizona, and I never looked back. I worked for a phenomenal owner for the last 23 years who owned a Major League Baseball team, treated me like a son, wanted me to be as creative as possible. And I knew one day I always wanted to be an entrepreneur, but I knew, hey, you know, when you have this is something that's special. And those were 23 years of the best years of my life. And I can tell you, he sank $55 million into the sanctuary back in 2001 when we opened. And I literally built my career on that. I ran one of the best food and wine festivals. I got invited to cook on, you know, Iron Chef and just things in my life that I was blessed and never could imagine. But at the end of the day, for me, it's really still, you know, you have so much to learn in this industry, and it's remaining humble. And I've learned more from the people that probably worked for me than I have the guys I've worked for. And, you know, every opportunity you have to shake someone's hands or please somebody in the service industry, you make a real emotional connection, and it's super important in life in any field. And that's really who I am. All right. You know, I should the way the Patriots are playing right now, but I still have my Bruins and my Celtics. So, yeah, that's one thing it's a part of me. You know what I mean? It's funny because I still talk to my friends back home. Yeah. Yep. It's true. Yeah, no. I have to tell some of my buddies sometimes, I'm like, slow down, but you can really turn it on and go wicked hard with your Boston accent if you want to. Yeah. All right, garlic still looks good. All right, so here's what we're gonna do. In a bowl, I'm gonna take a cup of mayo. Now, you know, you can measure everything. This mayo that we have is 20 ounces, a cup is 8. So I'm just gonna get a good amount in there. And a little extra mayo isn't gonna hurt anybody for this dip. Okay, beautiful. Sour cream, I'm gonna match it. Do I have this open right? No. Haha, Duke's mayo is the best. I'm one of those guys, Lise, you know me. If someone came into my restaurant and said, I want a beautiful filet mignon and I want it well done, you're paying for it. You're paying for it. Well done is the easiest steak in the world to cook. Let's make it for you. Let's make it for you. Yeah. Okay, check this out, guys. Real quick. I'm just gonna move this over so you can see the color of these onions. And then we're Worcestershire Tabasco. Yep. Let's scoop them out. That is a ceramic pan, correct. I bought it at Costco and I love this pan. Perfect. You got enough little onions in there and ratio for your dip. I'll move this guy to my sink. And then I want to do a couple other things too. I noticed it didn't say it in the recipe. It may have got missed, but we sent everybody a little bit of thyme. These beautiful, beautiful fresh thyme sprigs. They are so good. And keep in mind, you know, you have more than you need, but that's not a problem. In the kitchen, you know, it's better to have it and not need it than to need it and not have it. That's just an old rule. So I'm gonna pick a couple of these little thyme stems and I'm just gonna, yeah, I loved it. I also heard another comment that said, hug your server. And I hug my servers every night in my restaurant if they do a good job. That's very important. Okay, so a little bit of thyme. Just add a little herbaceousness to it. Americans, we cook, right? We're a little intimidated by spice and herbs. I can give you one tip, don't be. You know, get after it. You know, make it happen. So the more herbs you use, the more spice you use, the better developed your food's gonna be. It's gonna be multi-dimensional. Okay, so we said a half a cup of roasted garlic puree. We're gonna throw that in there too. Boom, right on top. Okay, and I'm gonna leave that spoon in there for us. A pinch of salt and pepper. Correct, it helps bleed it out a little bit. And now normally at least too, for time constraint, I'm gonna let this chill at room temperature. But you know, normally I would stick this in my fridge, I would add it, you'd have that time. We have a little bit more for an hour for planning, but I can just kind of move this off to the side because we're pretty much there. Next, it's kind of that burger conversation, right? The one thing I wanna do now is I wanna pull my garlic out. So let's do that. Oh, the garlic oil looks beautiful. The garlic looks amazing. And I'll just leave that on the stove and it'll just carry over cook is the term for that. Still bubbling, got some beautiful color. Burgers. What do we know about burgers, everybody? We know how amazing they are, right? It's like America's if food had like a state bird in America, it's gonna be pizza or it's gonna be a burger at the end of the day. I think more people relate to this product, and that's super, super important. I cook and judge in competitions all my life, the last 20 years, from Guys Grocery Games to Iron Chef, the next Iron Chef, to Alex vs. America, to everything. And the funny thing is, people forget when they get in front of those cameras and those lights and under that pressure, they try to think they got to recreate the world or do something. You know, I've heard, I don't know, I just have never done that before. And I'm like, well, when you're in a competition, never do anything you haven't done before and aren't emotionally connected to. So I knew this little slider thing would be fun. Now, check it out. Burgers, depending on your scoop and your bun, there's a conversation with the ratio. If you want to keep them consistent, I use a little scoop, 2-ouncer. I might want to make these a tiny bit bigger, but I don't. Yep, absolutely. But at the end of the day, you know, if you've done these enough, it's good to just kind of get them flat and even. But I use my hands. I mean, I feel it in my hand. It's working it. You know, there's a lot of cooking going on right now, sous vide cooking, and everything can be done for you, and it's all very scientific. But, you know, it still says something when you can go out to a backyard grill or in an oven and feel a steak or press on a burger, and you understand what that feels like and what temperature it's at. Yes. Wow, that is such an amazing question, Lisa, and what a segue. It's like cue the deer in the background outside. So see this right here? That we're making this roasted garlic for our aioli. That's the same roasted garlic as this. It's cooked in your oven in the oil. And when you get it to the point where it cools, you can throw this in a little mini blender with some oil, and this garlic puree is this pureed. Great timing. Okay, I'm gonna move my tomato jam off. I love the way that looks. And I'm gonna keep running through these burgers. How are we doing on time, kids? Are we doing good? Am I behind? I can pick it up. I know I don't look fast, but I'm fast. All right, burgers. Beautiful little burgers. The key is kind of getting them flat. Now, another little tip I should have gave you if you're cooking with me, you know, with food, the tip that I wanted to give, may have forgotten, is when you got burgers and you got a party happening and people are coming over and you're about an hour away from your dinner, you literally want to pull all of your proteins out of the fridge. You can just find a little area where they can sit. You never want to cook cold proteins in high heat. Like don't pull your burgers out of the fridge and put them in the hot pan. Why you don't want to do that is because you want the process of the cooking to be even, right? You've heard the term resting steaks and all what that looks like, and letting the blood go back through the meat, so when you slice into it, it has time to get red all the way through. It's the same with the burger. I think these things will cook much faster for you if you're at room temperature. And as they rest, they're still cooking. So that's the goal. I like the way they look. That's correct. Yeah. You're working with meat that has a better fat ratio. And, you know, Kobe beef strictly really comes from Japan. In order to call it Kobe beef, there's a couple different varieties, but it has to be raised in Kobe, Japan. Technically, it can be raised there, and it can actually be moved and slaughtered or processed somewhere else and still be called Kobe beef. Now, what's popular in America today is the American version of Wagyu beef, and it's a breed of that line with a Black Angus, mainly. But, you know, there's Tajima. There's a whole bunch of people in America now working with new breeds and using the same fundamentals that they did in Kobe, Japan, which is a slower raise, a better feed. You know, they get into all these theories in Kobe where they massage and sake, but you'll know. I mean, if you go out to pay for a dinner, you'll know just the difference in just the overall goodness and the taste and the fat content. All right, I might have went a little big on this guy. Let's put this one back in, and then more fat. Yep, the bottom line is, yeah, this is like day one of culinary school for me, and I say this a lot too when I'm teaching or doing some fun classes is, you know, fat is flavor. That's the first thing they taught me at Johnson & Wales. It really defines how good your food tastes. I mean, butter is butter. I encourage people to use as much butter as they want because it's usually gonna make food taste a lot better. The same thing with the burgers, you know, you get more fat into them, or you eat a fattier steak. A ribeye is probably gonna taste better than a filet. A filet is just gonna be more tender. Still got a little olive oil. Oh. No, to be honest with you, never 90-10, but they can really modify it and control it. Yep. I'm always using at least 80-20. I work with a company right now, believe it or not, out of Houston, Texas. That's a big online meat distribution company, and I do a lot of recipe development and work for those guys. But what's so cool about their products too, they have a Wagyu product for burgers that's amazing, but they're also doing 50-50 ratios of pork belly and beef now in their patties. And I'll tell you, you know, the pork flavor and the fat in a burger, unbelievable. Yeah, why not? Chuck, I mean, brisket, all of these beef sirloin, everything you want to use, you can use. I mean, you know, at the end of the day, you know, it's really, I tell people, you each have your own flavor print. It's really about you. We're all designed differently in our DNA. We connect on so many great things, but none of us is alike to the real sensory level of what food is and how it speaks to us. So the more you understand your sensibilities in food, the more you understand the taste and, you know, the palate's a muscle, sweet, salty, sour. The more you understand textures, these are all life's most sensual pleasures when it comes to food. And then you take the application of heat and cooking, add spices, add herbs, and you get food that's multi-dimensional. That's what really makes things whimsical, right? When you're surprised, but you still are trying to emotionally connect to it, you try to understand these flavors, and it might change a little bit. Those are the things that are just really, to me, like blessings in food. All right. Lamb meat, you can go 50-50. I mean, ground lamb, I make lamb burgers with, you know, tzatziki or a beautiful tahini aioli. You know, lamb burgers are amazing. And when you make lamb, you know, keep in mind, those flavors of lamb, like in your burger, chopped garlic, fresh mint, maybe a little ras al hanout, which is a beautiful spice that's Moroccan flavored, or smoked paprika. You get that on there, and then you can put feta on your lamb. You know, it's like, all of these things kind of work in tandem. Okay, kids. Why not? I've had a lot of crazy things. I've had peanut butter on burgers. I've had, you know, it's just, burgers are really that area where I think chefs can kind of say, hey, we're going to do something a little bit different. All right, so my pan, and I think you all got this beautiful cast iron griddle. There's a flat side and a grill side. For the burgers, I'm gonna be on the flat side. These are awesome, and they cook quick, and you can see I've kind of pressed down my burgers. I'm under the process of letting that heat up, so I will encourage you guys to literally turn your fan ons on your ovens when we start to go, because I want that grill pan a little bit hot. I can always control the heat after, but I want to create a beautiful sear. And then the other thing that I always kind of tell people is I'm a like one burger flip guy. I don't like to do it all too many. It's like, let it establish a beautiful caramelization and then literally leave it alone. We can garnish it. So in the meantime, for the garnish, I've got this beautiful Gouda. Wow, it's hot in my kitchen. My Gouda is slightly melting. This is a smoked Gouda. This is part of our garnish, so we can do a couple things there. And then I want to show you guys this. Look at my tomato jam, if we can get a shot of this. It's just beautiful, and we'll garnish those burgers. Oh, one more time, did I go too fast? I'm holding it up, but it is really like, it's almost like a ketchup, so to speak. You know, it's gonna be absolutely beautiful. And a little goes a long way. Oops, sorry. Little goes a long way all over my counter. All right, let's move this over. Tiny bit of oil, right? Am I getting some good heat here? I think so. The back one's on, that's awesome. I'm getting a little smoke. Let me turn on my fan. And like you said, don't be afraid. You're not sure? Give one a test. Not really a lot of sound yet, needs another minute. So here's what we'll do. We'll come back to our dip and we'll incorporate the sour cream, the garlic, and the mayo. We'll get that color and we'll add these beautiful onions. There's our beautiful caramelized onions. Oh, wow. I miss this dip. I don't get to make it as often anymore. And like I said, guys, when you refrigerate this, I can tell you it's going to be better tomorrow. We used to make a batch of it in 5-gallon buckets and it'll last a week in the fridge. Yeah. Yep. Okay, I'm gonna move that off to the side. That only needs one more thing. And then I'll show you something real quick. While we're waiting for those pans to heat up, we have some mayonnaise left. Just a little bit. Let's throw a little bit of mayo back in this bowl. And this probably calls for about a cup or cup and a half. Not too much. I want to take a little bit of the rosemary I have. And I just like to rip this rosemary. You know, the more you chop, the mention what I said is the more nutrients it loses, but this really brings out the perfume. And a little goes a long way. So a few little sprigs of rosemary. Okay. Next, my beautiful roasted garlic. I'm gonna bring that over here. I'm gonna grab my little spoon that I had in my sink. And we're just gonna pop that garlic out like so. I'm gonna let that rest on my board just so I can chop that. Oh, that smells good. And like I said, if you wanna make this for the onion dip, you know, you add a little bit more oil, and you just blend it and you get that creamy, beautiful stuff. Now, don't throw away this garlic oil. It'll last a long time. All right, burgers, hot. I love it. Hear the sizzle? See the smoke? I love this pan. Hope so. Easy and fast. All right. They're sizzling away. And you can just let them work. Absolutely. Absolutely. I'll tell you this. Now, that's a great question you bring up, and it's, you know, it's a debate, but if I have the ability, you know, to cook with cast iron, I always love to cook with cast iron. It's one of my favorite things, right? If I have the ability to cook outdoors and use wood as my source of heat, like a natural fire, that's my favorite way to go. But these griddles nowadays, these camp chefs nowadays, they're pretty amazing. So, yeah? Lise, I have one. It is one of the greatest things ever, and I'll tell you, I would have been able to cook 40 burgers in half the time today. Look at this garlic. I want to show you this real quick. That's how soft that is. I mean, it's just gorgeous, right? So you add what you want. This is going to go in the aioli. I got the rosemary in there. I'll add a little bit of salt and pepper. And then keep in mind, check this out, guys. We have a little bit more salt. Let's season the other side of our burgers while they're cooking. Yep. How does the clock start ticking? Yep. So here's the best part. These are probably 2 to 3 ounce burgers, right? You made them evenly. Give a little press on them. You don't want to squeeze too much juice out. I'm probably going to go about 2 minutes on each side. Try to get as much caramelization. Yep. And then honestly, I can let them rest and they'll cook. I like my burger rare to mid-rare. I'm that guy. Some like it well done. It doesn't matter. But you'll watch. We're about ready to flip. So before we do that, I'm going to mix up this little aioli. Yep, easily. So check this out. Let me just mix this up so I have my little aioli. And then here, you know, do we have enough color? That's the question. Absolutely. Look at the char. Okay? I know, I'm so excited about this. Yep, but it sure might, but the other thing is you can also look for the Wagyu beef is releasing a lot of fat. So I'm going to tell you 2 little tricks. Now listen, this has just been flipped. I could literally let this just cook for another minute or so, and then I'm going to turn the heat off, and that beef is going to stay on this warm, hot pan, and you're going to be fine. That'll carry over cook. And this is my favorite time. Yeah, I'm feeling this right now. Check this out, and I'll show you. I'm going off. I'm going off, kids. I'm going off. And then look at this. This is one of my other favorite little pieces of equipment. This is my little microplaner. Anybody see one of these little kitchen gadgets? It's replaced this. The old school box grater, which I still love. Still an amazing piece of equipment. Right? Exactly. But the pattern on this was designed and bought for microplane by the Pet Egg, which is a foot, heel, skin things. I mean, I wanted to tell you that before you guys ate your burger. Isn't that crazy? Yeah. No, of course not. Look at this. Be generous with your smoked Gouda. And honestly, too, if you like to slice it, slice it. It's totally up to you. Yeah, and it grates it so it like almost melts, and then you get a little of that sticky melt on the side of the burger. I'm so excited right now. Okay, watch. Yep. Yeah. Yeah. Cold pizza is one of my favorite things to eat. Also, cold fried chicken, one of my favorite things to eat. But generally, you know, with the kids here, my kids are all over the board. I have a 20-year-old, I have a 13-year-old, an 11-year-old, and 2 twins that are 4. So I might be making a few different meals, but we're real big pasta people, so I love to do that. Burgers for sure. You know, this time of year is absolutely gorgeous in Arizona. So I have a green egg outside. I have a beautiful black stone. I have lots of you know, options to cook, and I honestly got to tell you too, I like cooking for 20 people more than I like cooking for 4 people. See that tomato jam on those burgers? Okay. I'm one of those guys that's like, the more the merrier, invite everyone. Okay, we can assemble these things and then we can try some food, guys. I hope I didn't slow you guys down. Look at this little, these are also, my good buddy Guy Fieri has endorsed the King's Hawaiian buns. Keep in mind, you want to take things to a greater level, right? That's why I said keep that garlic oil, because if you like your buns toasted, when you have this garlic oil, you can literally just brush that garlic oil over those and toast your buns up. Yeah. Yep. The other great tip too, and I will tell you this too, is the same thing with the burger. You know, this garlic oil is essential. So if you have a little spoon, and I do right here, you could have, instead of pouring a little olive oil in your cast iron pan, you could have used garlic oil, but you can always go back through and drizzle a little on your burgers. All right. All right, I'm gonna build some of these cats for you. And let's do that. Let's take these three, and these three. These are my favorite. Yeah, I'm a sucker for pretzel rolls. And guys, Super Bowl's coming up. So I'll tell you, it's just, this is such a good little Scooby snack bite. So we're gonna go like this. Boom. A little bit of roasted garlic aioli. Yep. I still have a tiny bit of knife work, but don't be scared. I definitely gave you a little more than you need, but this is just one of the things that I love on this burger. I'll show you. It's right here. It's a little slice of white onion, and you already had the technique show. So let's just clean up my knife, and then for this, cut the end off. Cut the end off. Cut it in half. Same thing. Take out that outer layer, and then, you know, super thin slices. And for me, just a little bit. The outer layers, I use it in stock, maybe. You know what I mean? I'll throw whole onions with skins in stock if I'm making a beautiful chicken soup. But it can tend to be a little bit bitter, you know what I mean? So it's got to be to your taste. Okay, kids. Right? Yeah. Okay, look at this. This is what we call a fat daddy right here. Let's grab a couple. And the plate up. What am I missing, guys? What am I missing? You know what I'm missing. Right? Just a couple more will create. That's right. All right, so let's do this and stack one of these up. Here's our little tops. I mean, who's gonna be mad at that little burger at a Super Bowl party? You got more beef than bun, right? You got more beef than bun. There's a lot of bang for the buck right there, right? I'm gonna show you, I'll cut one up and show you guys. Yeah, you guys can send me some pics on Instagram at Chef Beau Mac. You just got that beautiful little burger right inside there. I'm gonna take a bite, don't be mad at me. Mmm. Wow. I love it. So check it out, kids. Oh. I'm gonna show you. I also like to, before I serve this dip, just throw a little bit of green onion over the top. And then nothing better than, I don't endorse either product, but if you got a great bag of Lay's or a beautiful bag of Ruffles, which are my favorite because of the ridged, that's it. You just go just like this, give it a little stir. And you got an amazing little onion dip for the Super Bowl or any party you want to host. Guys, a pickle would be great. To the burger, listen, I will eat pickles on anything, and I'll eat anything pickled. So we are fantastic. You know, it's really just about how much you want to do and exercise your right to be creative. I think that's what the most important part is. But I'll tell you, I hope you enjoyed today as much as I did, guys. You've been really awesome. And this is something that I think hopefully you will definitely use in the future. Yeah, guys, thank you so much. Hope you all enjoyed. Love you guys. Have a wonderful Super Bowl. Oh. Let's go. Oh yeah, Beastie Boys, I think, were one of the ones who said it too. So yeah, that's awesome. There you go. Come to my neighborhood. Yeah. Yeah. Yep. Yep. My honor. Bye, guys.